Hi students. Today we're going to be talking about dilations. This is the last transformation that we will be learning. So you need your notes out, your spiral or a piece of paper, something to take notes on. There's no note sheet for today. So we are just going to look at some of the properties of a dilation. Here are some vocabulary words that you need to know. The first one is dilation. A dilation is a transformation that changes the size of a figure. So now you can tell right away if it's a dilation because the figure changes size. It's either going to be an enlargement or a reduction. So it's either going to be larger than the original pre-image or smaller than the original pre-image. And then we know what the center of dilation is going to be. It's a fixed point where lines connecting corresponding parts of a figure intersect. The center of dilation for us will always be at the origin. Similar figures, two figures that have the same shape with proportional sides and congruent corresponding angles. This is actually what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at proportional sides. We're going to write up the proportions and show that the angles are congruent. Scale factor is the ratio of corresponding lengths in two similar figures. So a ratio is another word for fraction, so we're going to write up fractions to show the scale factor. I'm going to show you exactly what this kind of looks like. I'm going to prove to you that these are similar figures. And if I remember on the first day when we had our note sheet, we were measuring the sides and measuring angles, and we were showing that they were the same measurement, the corresponding angles were the same. We did that for translation, reflection, and rotation. And we've already discussed all those characteristics, but the first day we were actually measuring the angles and measuring the side lengths. I'm going to show you today how it is on a dilation, and then on Monday you'll need the note sheet. We will finish off filling in that note sheet with this information. So if I have a pre-image, RST, and then the image, R prime, S prime, T prime, I'm going to show the measurement of the corresponding sides. So if I look at RS prime, which is right here, and RS, these measurements are 2 centimeters and 1 centimeter. So if I make a ratio out of it, a fraction, it becomes 2. I put the prime over the image over the pre-image. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure ST prime over and put it over ST. And those are 2 centimeters and 1 centimeter. And again, my ratio is 2. The last one is RT and RT prime. So we measure them, 2.8 and 1.4. If I put 2.8 over 1.4, it becomes 2. And that 2 is my scale factor, and I call that K. That's the abbreviation for scale factor. And so my K will equal 2. That means my image is twice as big as my pre-image. So we're going to write a conjecture based on the ratios in the table. The ratios all equal 2, so the side lengths are proportional. That means that the figure grew equally 2 times on all sides. Then we're going to measure the corresponding angles. I'm going to tell you that measure of angle S and S prime, they are congruent. They are the same measurement. They're both 90 degrees. R and R prime are the same measurement. T and T prime are the same measurement. So we can say the corresponding angles are congruent. And remember, congruent just means the same measurement. So the corresponding angles are the same. 2 figures that have the same shape but different sizes are called similar. Are triangles RST and R prime S prime T prime similar? Why or why not? They are similar because their corresponding sides are proportional. That was that K that we came up with. And their corresponding angles are congruent. If you remember back at the vocabulary words, similar figures, 2 figures that have the same shape, proportional sides, and congruent corresponding angles, which this did. They had proportional sides, congruent corresponding angles, so we can say that they are similar. And now let's look at the orientation. So remember, with orientation we have letter orientation and physical orientation. Let's look at the letter orientation first. RST, R prime, S prime, T prime. They're in the same configuration. And then are they in the same physical orientation? The R is at the top on this first figure on the pre-image. And on the image, R is on the top. T is on the right, and T is on the right on the other one. So they are in the same physical orientation also. So when we compare it, the figure and its dilation have the same orientation. Now, just a little side note here, the orientation of a figure and its dilation remain the same if the scale factor is positive. And we will only work with positive scale factors in this class. You do not have to worry about negative scale factor. Okay, I'm going to show you what this looks like, so you can just put your pencils down and just watch. It says write the ratios of the corresponding sides and congruent statements for the angles. So there's 2 things we're going to do for each figure, or sets of figures. The first thing I'm going to show you are the angles. We're going to write the congruent statements for angles. And all you're doing is you're taking this angle H and H prime and writing that they are congruent. So you say, you would say angle H is congruent to angle H prime.
We're not meeting?
Then you would move on to the next angle. Measure of angle L is congruent to angle L prime. And then to the next one, angle G is congruent to angle G prime. And the last one, angle V is congruent to angle V prime. So as you noticed, I used this symbol, that means angle, and this symbol, equal sign with a little squiggly on top, that means congruent. So those are the 2 symbols that you will use with the letters. And now we're going to do our fractions, our ratios. And it's the image over the pre-image. So these are prime letters. and you're doing the side lengths, HL and H prime L prime. Take the prime first. H prime L prime over HL. And then we have L prime G prime over LG. G prime V prime over GV. And then the last, V prime H prime over VH. If you have a four-sided figure, a quadrilateral, you should have 4 fractions. If you have a triangle, three-sided figure, you'll have 3 fractions. Now, after you write up your ratios, you're going to write the measurements only for the sides that are vertical or horizontal. So here's a vertical side right here. So you just count how many units there are. So here's a half, 1, so it's 1.5, and another half. So half, half, and 1 is 2. So this is 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 over 4 is 1/2. And the other one that we can count is LG prime. So there's 1, 2.5. So 2.5. And LG is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units in length. 2.5 over 5 is equal to 1/2. And now these ones, they're at an angle. So we will discuss those tomorrow, how to calculate them. And we're not doing the Pythagorean theorem with these. There's another way that we can look at the length, or to find the scale factor. But for today, if it's not a horizontal or vertical side, you just leave these blank. And then you can write K equals 1/2. Remember, K is scale factor. That equals 1/2. Okay, so make sure your notes are out. And we're going to look at this figure, and we're going to practice writing our angle statements. So the first one, you just pick a corner. So we're going to start here with Q. Angle Q is congruent to angle Q prime. And then just go around the shape. Angle L is congruent to angle L prime. Go ahead and write the other 2 angle statements up. We have angle G is congruent to angle G prime, and angle R is congruent to angle R prime. Does it matter if I write it up like this, how I did, or what if on the last one I wrote angle R prime is congruent to angle R? Can I write it like that as well? Yes, you can. I just pick a way and I'm just consistent with it. This is still a true statement, but I just pick one letter and I just keep all the letters from the pre-image and then all the letters from the image on the other side. On your ratios, though, you have to put the prime side lengths over the pre-image side lengths. So again, you're going to pick a side, and we have QL and Q prime And if you ever see a letter missing, just go ahead and add it in. You know that's going to be L prime. And the image letters have to be on top. Q prime, L prime over QL. And then you just go around the figure. L prime, G prime over LG. Go ahead and write up the other two statements. Okay, we have G prime R prime over GR, and then the last one is going to be R prime Q prime over RQ. Are there any horizontal or vertical sides? There's two. There's two vertical. Count the units. 1.5 here, so I put 1.5, and then QL is 1, 2, 3 units. 1.5 over 3 is 1/2. And then this one, GR. GR prime is 1.5. And GR, 1, 2, 3. Again, this is 1/2. You can say my K equals 1/2. What does that mean? What does this scale factor mean? So here's my pre-image. The black shape is my pre-image. My image is reduced to half the size. That's what this means. It's reduced. These are half the length. So this is half the size. This is half. This will be half. The image is half the length of the pre-image on this side. So that's our that's what we're doing for our homework. I want you to go ahead and write up the angle statements for this figure and the congruent statements. And we do not have any vertical or horizontal sides, so you cannot find the scale factor today. Teacher, if you can hit pause and let the students write up their statements, that would be great. All right, so you should have had angle U is congruent to angle U prime. Angle Q is congruent to angle Q prime. Angle N is congruent to angle N prime. Angle K is congruent to angle K prime. Side lengths, U prime Q prime over UQ. If you started with a different side length or a different angle, if you started with K instead of U, that's fine. They don't need to be in any specific order. Q prime N prime over QN. N prime K prime over NK. And K prime U prime over KU. Okay, and we can't figure out the K value today. Last example. Go ahead and write up your angle statements and your side lengths again, your ratios. And this time we do have two vertical sides that you can write the actual scale factor for. You can figure out the ratio. Teacher, if you could hit pause. Okay, so you should have had all of your letters, your statements written up. Again, it's missing a letter here, so just put Y prime. And I'll go ahead and start with that one. Angle Y is congruent to angle Y prime. Angle S is congruent to angle S prime. Angle F is congruent to angle F prime. And angle C is congruent to angle C prime. Side lengths, C prime Y prime over CY. Y prime S prime over YS. S prime F prime over SF. And F prime C prime over FC. And the two sides, we can count CY and CY prime. So this is 1.5. And this is 1, 2, 3. So again, we have a scale factor of 1/2. And this one is 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Simplifies to 1/2. So you can say our scale, our K is, scale factor is 1/2. And again, what does 1/2 mean? That the side lengths are 1/2 of the pre-image side lengths. So they reduce that figure by 1/2. And that's the lesson for today. Your homework will be passed out. The remaining part of your day you can spend doing your homework. Again, all we're doing is writing the congruent statements or the ratios, and if there's a vertical or horizontal side, you're calculating the scale factor. All right, have a great day, and I will see you on Monday. Please be good for the substitute. Bye.